Welcome to AETCM, the Emergency Medicine channel. Today we'll be discussing a case that presented to our ER with the history of transient loss of consciousness. Can we begin, sir?
Yes.
A 59-year-old male presented to our ER with complaints of transient loss of consciousness for about 1 to 2 minutes that afternoon and spontaneously recovered. So in our initial 10-second assessment, patient was conscious, oriented, and since he was talking well, we quickly moved on to the primary survey. Airway-wise, it was patent, there was no pooling of secretions, and patient was talking in one full sentence. Breathing-wise, patient had a respiratory rate of 18 cycles per minute, maintaining saturation of 99% in room air, with air entry being bilaterally equal with adequate chest rise and excursions, and bilaterally symmetrical chest movements were noted. Auscultation-wise, no added sounds were heard. Circulation-wise, patient had a heart rate of 60 beats per minute with blood pressure of 106/70 mm mercury, maintaining a MAP of around 90 mm mercury. The rhythm was irregular, and upon auscultation, pansystolic murmur was heard over the apex. All peripheral pulses were palpable. Disability wise, patient has a GCS of E4 V5 M6 totaling up to 15/15. Pupils were 2.5 millimeters bilaterally and reactive to light. Exposure wise, patient had temperature of 98.6 degree Fahrenheit with blood sugars of 178 milligram per deciliter. Now with this in mind, we went ahead with adjuncts of primary survey. The first investigation we did was an ECG. Now ECG wise,
before going to ECG, what are things you will examine in this patient quickly? Somebody had a fall, loss of consciousness and fell down. What other things you look in this patient?
One would be the GRBS, rule out
GRBS will be
hypoglycemia.
done.
Any
Yes.
history of trauma we ask.
Head injuries.
Head injuries.
Because somebody falls, especially in the bathroom or in the inside house, there is a high chance of hitting head against objects. So head injury is one of the most important cause for cause or deterioration in patients who had fall. Okay, so that should be examined in detail. Otherwise, you will forget because we will be running behind the ECG and other rhythm monitoring. This we will forget. But, immediately examine the head for any external injuries.
Alright. Okay. This patient had no history of trauma, sir. Okay. So ECG wise, our ECG was
history will not be there. See, when somebody falls down, how can you tell that I had hit on the head? Okay. They will not remember anything. During acute phase, they will not have pain also. It's our duty to examine the head. Okay.
ECG wise, patient had a standard ECG wise, the ECG was calibrated to the standard 10 millimeters with 10 small boxes equaling up to 1 millivolts. Now our axis was minus 49/109 degrees, and RR interval was 59 beats per minute, but the rhythm was irregular. Now QT was 472 with Bezet's formula. QTC prolongation was procured, that is QT over root of RR, and that was around 467. Q wave, there were absent P waves. Q waves were seen in lead 3 and AVF, and T wave inversions were noted in 1 AVL V5 to V6 along with ectopics. So
what do you think that is?
With ectopics were present, so with absent P waves and irregular rhythm, the first thing that we think of is an AF with ectopics.
So AF is the most important finding when there is irregular QRS complexes with wavy baseline. But what is the rate here?
59 beats per minute. Sir.
One of the most important problem in patients who is having AF is totally controlled rate. That means rate has come down to 50, 40 like that. Same patient can develop complete heart block also. So like normal ECG, you will not be able to see any P waves. Complete heart block means there also you get severe bradycardia, 40 or 50 rate. How do you differentiate AF with controlled heart rate? That means totally controlled heart rate.
With CHP.
And AF with complete, sorry, one is complete heart block, other one is reduced heart rate, that is bradycardia.
Sir, in CHP, the PP interval and the QQ interval subsequent will be equal.
PP interval. We are not seeing any P.
No, in CHB, sir.
Complete
heart block. There will be
atrial fibrillation with complete heart block. How do you differentiate atrial fibrillation with reduced heart rate because of the drug, whatever? like you may be taking digoxin, beta blocker. So severe bradycardia will be there. How do you define
We
it?
take a rhythm strip, sir, and then in the rhythm strip we see the relation between PP, subsequent PPs and
PPs.
QRS.
PP means
RR.
interval. If RR intervals are coming constantly,
then it will
in
be
spite of
CHP.
atrial fibrillation, then you have to think about complete
Complete
heart
heart
block. Because this is the one you miss most of the time. For somebody is on digoxin or beta blocker, these patients will come with the severe bradycardia, 40, 50 like that. But still then the RR interval will be very
Regularization of the RR.
regularization of RR interval indicates complete heart block. In this type of patients, you have to strongly think about complete heart block. But you are seeing ectopics in this patient. What is your diagnosis?
So there is something called as an Ashman phenomena, that is ectopics you see in AF, wherein there will be long RR interval followed by a short RR interval, and this rhythm will be terminated by an aberrant ventricular conduction.
Okay.
That happens because of refractory period of his Purkinje fibers. Along with that, since that will be in synchrony to the RR interval. Now because of an ectopic or a small shorter conduction period, that beat occurs in the small refractive period. Now because of that you will have a shorter RR interval, aberrant conduction, along with that a long RR interval.
Any problem because of this?
So it is mostly asymptomatic,
Okay.
and clinically nothing much to be done
Okay.
about an Ashman phenomena. With this, then the next investigation we went ahead, the next adjunct was a point of care tropi, which came back to be negative. And adjuncts to, and VBG was also taken as our third adjunct. That was only to rule out any electrolyte abnormalities. But patient did not have any acid-base derangements, and metabolites like electrolytes like sodium, potassium, everything was within normal limits.
What is the drug history of this patient?
Drug history wise, patient was on multiple drugs, because it had a strong cardiac history. He was on warfarin 5 mg on alternate days with 4 mg. Along with this, he was on Nebicard 5 mg and Codron, amiodarone on 50 mg. Then he was on rosuvastatin, digoxin 0.25 mg, and then torsemide. Along with this, OHAs like dapagliflozin and gliclazide.
In that, which is the most dangerous drug?
Warfarin
for an
and
emergency room.
warfarin and digoxin.
Digoxin. Warfarin, we know that the PTNR can be
Maintained.
elevated when we are taking warfarin. But digoxin,
Digoxin.
in this patient, you have to be very careful about some electrolytes. What electrolytes you want to check?
Potassium levels,
Potassium and
magnesium.
magnesium. So you have to check. Whenever patient comes like this, we have to check all these things. Okay. So all these three drugs are going to cause severe bradycardia. Beta blockers, amiodarone, digoxin, all.
So patient did not have hypokalemia, so potassium levels were 3.8. Even magnesium, calcium, all the other electrolytes were also within the normal levels, so nothing to potential digoxin toxicity. Then with this adjuncts,
What is digoxin effect?
There will be sad.
reverse
tick
tick
sign.
sign.
T-wave
will be
inversion. That is it a sign of toxicity?
No.
Okay. It's not a sign
sign
of
of
toxicity. It's digoxin effect. How do you give digoxin for a patient? What is the dose of digoxin?
Point.
You are seeing many patients on digoxin. How the prescription is?
We will give a break for
Okay,
them.
why
5
break?
days, we will give them 2 days.
What is drug holiday?
Nitrates, digoxin and all.
So some drugs require holidays for that receptor to reactivate. So digoxin, same like digoxin has got a drug holiday, 2 days, 5 days in a week, 2 days off. That should be there. Some patients take continuously, so they develop all toxicities or some unwanted problems. Okay.
With that being in mind, cardiac monitor was placed because ECG had changes to constantly monitor the heart rhythm, and then we went ahead with our secondary survey. Now secondary survey where patient's symptoms were sweating along with nausea. This followed by this was a transient loss of consciousness for about 1 to 2 minutes, and he spontaneously regained consciousness. So
What is the person activity at the time he went in for?
So when he experienced syncope, the patient was being seated.
Oh.
So there was no any strenuous or a provocative act before the event, like any exercise, stress, emotional stress, or micturition, defecation, nothing of that sort. But patient did have premonitory symptoms of sweating and nausea.
So what did he do? He himself moved to the bed, or he was
he-
just sitting and
He,
then fell
he,
down?
he tried to get up. With an attempt of that, he fell on the ground
It was
for
witnessed?
about 1 to 2 minutes. Sorry,
It
sir.
was witnessed or not witnessed?
Not witnessed.
Do you suspect any hypoglycemic episode in this patient?
Could be possible, sir, because
But
this
he's not
patient.
having any symptoms, no? Hypoglycemic symptoms are there.
But he
sweating,
is on
palpitation.
Nebicard, no, sir. That
What is the
can
problem of Nebicard?
be. It will mask the hypoglycemic features.
Hypoglycemia unawareness. Patients on beta blocker never show any symptom of hypoglycemia. Suddenly they will fall down. Okay. Any hypoglycemia spontaneously recovers? Can hypoglycemia recover spontaneously?
No.
Counter current
Glucagon.
Stress hormones.
hormones, they are released. Some patients recover without any treatment. Some patients may not recover. That all depends on their hormonal status.
So he wasn't known to have any drug allergies or medical history, drug history. We just enlisted that. Last meal was 5:30 p.m. that afternoon, and event was, like I said, patient had premonitory symptoms of sweating, nausea when he was sitting. Since he was feeling discomfort, he tried to get up and he had a history of fall. Now there was no ongoing chest pain when the patient was brought to the ER. No history of any shortness of breath noted, no palpitations, no history of trauma, no GTCS, any of such symptoms
How
that
you
were
know that
noted. Sir.
GTC is not there?
Elevated
How you know
lactate.
patient,
We can check the
Lactate.
lactate levels.
that's all. Without lactate, you cannot make out.
Confusion
For a
state.
clinician, most important is
Confusion
you are talking to the patient. The patient is still in a confused state. You should suspect a seizure. Like that, she told. Once you get the patient inside, we can ask for a lactate and see whether lactate is elevated or not. But most important is post-ictal confusion state. That will not be there in the syncope. Okay.
So with this, the next that we did was a high risk stratification, so to figure out how risky this syncope event was. Now that comprised, this patient had a very strong cardiac disease.
What was the cardiac disease?
He had a history of CAD, coronary artery disease, with double vessel disease and severe LV dysfunction. There was a dilated cardiomyopathy with severe MR, moderate TR, and severe PAH histories already there.
You are getting a
And his-
pansystolic murmur in the apex. What are the differential diagnosis for a pansystolic murmur in the apex?
One is mitral regurgitation,
Mitral regurgitation.
tricuspid regurgitation,
Okay.
VSTs.
ESTs. How do you differentiate all these things?
Mitral
Mitral valve prolapse
Mitral
leading to
valve.
MR.
MR.
Okay. So main thing is MR, DR, VST. Now, how do you differentiate all these things?
Valsalva maneuver we do, then
That's called as dynamic
Dynamic
auscultation. If you
auscultation.
do dynamic auscultation technique, sometimes you can make out this type of disorders. We are not discussing that. Since there is a pansystolic murmur, we have to think about some regurgitant lesions. Nothing.
along with this, the patient had undergone 2 CABG grafts,
Okay.
and patient also has a history of paroxysmal AF and also known to have dyslipidemia, hypertension, diabetes with complications of diabetic nephropathy.
Okay.
And patient was on Thyronorm too because he is hypothyroid.
Thyronorm is
Thyronorm,
levothyroxine.
yeah,
How much?
thyroxine. 100 microgram and 125 micrograms on alternate days.
112 micro,
120,
12.5. Okay.
So this was his past history, and that itself qualifies him to be a high risk candidate. The other high risk issues that we have to look into is family history of any sudden death or any old age, elderly people with associated comorbidities, any shortness of breath, or any event
Which
that
type of patients you think about sudden cardiac death?
younger
Young adults. What?
DCM.
Brugada.
Brugada
Brugada.
syndrome, DCM. What is Brugada syndrome?
It's a child
Cal-
of
Okay. What TCG change you may get?
RBI
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 pattern
pattern.
and V1, V2. Okay. This patient, we are not thinking about any family involvement here. Okay, he is having ischemic heart disease. Okay.
And persistent hypotension and also abnormal ECG are also the other things that can be regarded as a high risk case.
Okay.
So this patient was a high risk candidate. Now with this, we went ahead with head to foot examination. Now in that patient's appearance he appeared normal. There was no cold clammy extremities. Then we also neck had no carotid bruit. Then we needed to rule out orthostatic hypotension, so we took both supine and standing BP, and there was no orthostatic.
How do you examine BP in a patient with atrial fibrillation?
We have to take multiple times.
Three.
Because this is a continuous process. Atrial fibrillation means continuously irregular beats are coming. The blood coming to ventricle is varying beat to beat. So you have to see at least 3 or 4 readings. Then only you can, because one reading BP will be 80 by 60, another reading will be 160 by 100. So you have to take an average. That's all possible in this type of patient. Otherwise we need a arterial line. Okay.
So other systemic examination wise, CVS wise, patient had S1, S2 with
Can you get an S1
irregular.
in mitral regurgitation? Is it possible?
It will be soft.
It will be soft.
Soft.
It has to be soft. If there is a significant MR like this, it has to be soft.
Then pansystolic murmur was noted.
What do you
and
mean by
irregular.
pansystolic murmur?
That is, the murmur will be present
But
throughout
it's all
the systolic
basic. It
phase.
starts from the first heart sound.
S1 to
It
S2.
ends with the second heart sound. So you are not going to hear first heart sound at all in MR unless there is a sometimes MVP with MR you can get first heart sound with a long systolic murmur. Okay.
So respiratory system wise, patient did not have any added sounds. Bilaterally chest movements were also symmetrical. CNS, we did a thorough examination in order to rule out any history of CV or CVA. This patient did not have any focal neurological deficits. Power, tone, bulk, reflexes, everything was present and good. So per abdomen wise, soft, non-tender, and bowel sounds were also present. With this, we went ahead with lab investigations. In
What lab investigation you want to ask? This
importantly, electrolytes, serum electrolytes.
you already done. It's normal.
Then PTINR.
PTNR is the most important because
Patient
he is
is on
on
warfarin.
So PTNR is the first investigation. What is a PTNR?
PT was 23.8 and INR was 2.02.
Are you happy with that?
Yes, sir. The target INR for a cardiac abnormality is 2.5 to 3.
There are different types of cardiac abnormality. Rhythm abnormalities are, valve replacement is there, prosthetic valves are there. So all are
2 to
different.
2.5.
Here 2 to 3 is okay.
So in our lab investigation wise, there wasn't anything significantly abnormal about him. So
Okay.
electrolytes were normal. PTINR fell in the therapeutic range. Then so we also did a something called as a Canadian syncope score, sir. Now Canadian syncope score is basically to check again for the mortality rate for a patient coming to ER with history of syncope. Now this patient had a risk score of 4, which itself catapults him to be a high risk candidate. It actually comprises of 3 main entities. One is clinical entity, the other is investigation wise, and then comes diagnosis in the ED. Now clinical investigation wise, you'll ask for any predisposition or a provocative factor like was the patient micturating, defecating. If it is there, then it goes to -1. And next is we ask for how long the duration of the event was and how was the BP status. Was there any persistent hypotension or hypertension? Now the next thing is lab investigations where we check for tropi, QRS duration, axis, then QTC prolongation. Now depending on that, scores will be added to either 0 or +2. And ED, whether how does the ER physician diagnose this patient with history examination wise and all. So if it inches towards vasovagal syncope, then we deduct 2 more points from the score. But if we suspect a cardiac history, then we add 2 on. So this patient has almost about 4 to 5, which itself calls him to be a high risk candidate.
So where will you admit this patient? Ward or ICU?
ICU for at least observation for a
Okay, what you will observe?
any cardiac arrhythmias,
Already is in arrhythmia.
another episode of syncope.
Already is in arrhythmia. What you want to see in this patient?
Can you follow bradycardia with maybe his mask, heart block or
Okay,
something?
this patient is already having severe
Severe
bradycardia.
bradycardia.
So you are looking for further bradycardias or complete heart block or long pauses like that. That should be there in your mind. Okay.
So with this, since a cardiac high risk A was called in, we placed a cardiac consultation for further evaluation of cardiac arrhythmias and
What all things you want to evaluate for this patient?
One would be a constant monitoring
You
of
want
both.
to do an echo for this patient.
Yes, sir, to check
Why?
for any vegetations, any
Vegetations?
AF,
Thrombus
thrombus,
Thrombus formation.
Thrombus.
Okay. Vegetations are different from thrombus.
Thrombus.
So you look for any thrombus
Thrombus.
formation. Where is the thrombus commonly seen in atrial fibrillation?
left atrium.
Atrium. Okay.
So yeah, cardiac consultation was placed and patient was further managed by the.
So what all possible things can be done for this patient?
One is risk stratification and
Here the heart
DDs.
rate is very low.
Pace
Pacing is not required. Heart rate is very low.
59.
So what?
We can hold on the drug rate control.
So we have to rearrange the drugs. There are 3 drugs which reduces the heart rate. Beta blocker is there.
Decox.
Digoxin is there. Amedron is there. Okay, amedron may be given for rhythm control
Rhythm.
also. So we will not be touching that.
Mm.
Beta blocker,
Nebicard.
those can be reduced. Can we withdraw beta blocker suddenly? That
No.
also sometimes create problem.
Refractory.
So we can reduce the dose of
Beta blockers.
beta blocker. Okay, that's all we can do. But this patient may require further surgical procedure. What surgical procedure?
Valve
He has to go for valve replacement.
replacement.
Severe MR, atrial fibrillation, uncontrolled
P.
problems. We have to go for valve,
valve
replacement.
replacement.
Anything else, sir?
Okay, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir.